Okay, so we've got this story, right? 15-month-old Mary Anning survives a lightning strike.
Wow.
Yeah, and it tragically kills 3 other people. Can you imagine?
It's a pretty dramatic start to a life.
Yeah, and, a lot of people back then actually thought that's what, made her so intelligent.
Well, really?
Yeah, and kind of, set her on this incredible path.
It's interesting, right, how we kind of look for these explanations, these beginnings,
Yeah.
to kind of explain these exceptional lives.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to dive into today.
Okay.
This extraordinary life of Mary Anning, who was, a pioneering fossil hunter.
Yeah.
And she spent her life scouring these cliffs in Lyme Regis.
Yeah. It's a pretty incredible place.
Yeah, this Jurassic coastline,
Yeah.
just this rugged landscape and, these ancient wonders just being revealed by the sea.
And it wasn't just beautiful, it was like really geologically important.
Right.
So we have this constant erosion exposing these layers and layers of Jurassic era rocks.
Right.
So it's incredibly rich with fossils.
Yeah, and it wasn't just like a, hobby for people.
Oh.
It was actually vital to their survival.
Yeah, these families, like the Annings, really relied on finding and selling fossils.
Exactly. So our mission today in this deep dive is to really understand the huge contributions Mary Anning made to paleontology
Okay.
and to understand the challenges she faced
Yeah.
and the lasting impact of her discoveries.
Let me talk about perseverance, right?
Exactly.
And this pursuit of knowledge against all odds.
Yeah. So you shared this, really captivating account with us, and
Yeah.
we were really struck by that detail about the lightning strike.
Oh, yeah.
So let's unpack what made her story so compelling.
Yeah, and her work so important.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of begs the question, right? Like, how does necessity and passion kind of come together?
Right.
And for Mary, I think, the need to support her family after her dad died
Right.
became, totally intertwined with this fascination she developed for fossils.
Yeah, for these ancient remains.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Lyme Regis itself was so important, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, just picture this small community right on this Jurassic coast,
Yeah.
just surrounded by these remnants of the past.
Yeah, it's like this, prehistoric graveyard
Exactly.
just spilling out onto the beach.
Yeah, just waiting to be discovered.
Yeah. So after her father died, hunting fossils for Mary and her brother, Joseph wasn't just a hobby.
No, it was essential.
It was their livelihood.
Yeah, they had to do it to survive.
Yeah, and get this, at 12 years old, Mary unearthed a complete ichthyosaur skeleton.
Wow, 12 years old.
I mean, that's
Incredible.
an incredible find for anyone, let alone a child.
Yeah, and that wasn't just a fluke, right?
Right.
I mean, it shows a real talent for observation
Right.
and this intuitive understanding of where to find these things.
Right.
It wasn't luck. This was the beginning of a lifelong dedication.
Yeah. Yeah, but think about the context she was working in. So this is the early 19th century,
Right.
and the scientific world is completely dominated by men.
Totally.
And here's Mary, a working class woman, trying to contribute to this field.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine the whispers, the
Yeah.
doubts, the dismissiveness that she probably faced.
Right. It was a completely different world.
Yeah, she was navigating a world that was, basically designed to exclude her.
Right.
Being a woman in science back then was a huge barrier.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, her working class background, would have further marginalized her.
Right. And probably made people question her expertise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not based on her actual work, but just based on who she was.
Right. And where she came from.
Exactly.
It's pretty frustrating.
Yeah. But despite all that,
Yeah.
her discoveries were revolutionary.
They really were.
So not just the ichthyosaur.
Right.
She finds the first complete plesiosaur skeleton.
I mean, that's crazy.
It's a creature so strange that even Georges Cuvier, this leading scientist, initially doubted it was real.
Yeah, he thought she had made it up.
Yeah.
He couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And then there's the pterosaur, right? Proving the existence of ancient flying reptiles. And the squaloraja.
Yeah, amazing discoveries.
Yeah, and these weren't just interesting objects. They were pivotal pieces of evidence for understanding the history of life on Earth.
I mean, think about the plesiosaur, right?
Yeah.
Like this long neck, tiny head.
Yeah.
It defied all the existing classifications of animals.
Yeah.
Scientists had to rethink animal anatomy.
Right.
And then the pterosaur, it provided evidence of a world populated by creatures that are totally unlike anything we see today.
Yeah.
So it really expanded our concept of time and the diversity of past life.
Yeah, and all of that really challenged the dominant views on creation at the time.
Absolutely.
It provided concrete evidence for extinction.
Yeah.
And these very early ideas that would later form the basis of the theory of evolution.
Right.
So her work was literally shaking the foundations of how people understood the planet.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. Yeah, and at the time there was this growing questioning of traditional explanations.
Yeah.
Religious explanations for the natural world.
Right.
So naturalists were already starting to explore these ideas of change over time.
Yeah.
And her fossils provided the concrete evidence.
Our data.
Yeah, to support those views.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so unfortunate that so often her contributions were, minimized,
Yeah.
completely ignored
Yeah.
by the scientific community.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
Yeah, the accounts we have, they show how her discoveries were presented and published by men.
Right.
And her name was barely mentioned.
Yeah, if at all sometimes.
Yeah, and even when Cuvier questioned her plesiosaur finding, you can only imagine how discouraging that must have been.
Yeah, it must have been so disheartening.
Yeah.
And it really points to this bigger issue, right?
Uh-huh.
Of, recognizing contributions from people outside of the elite.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't have the social status or the formal education.
Right.
It's this systemic bias that can prevent really groundbreaking work from being acknowledged.
Right.
But thankfully,
Yeah.
Despite the lack of recognition during her lifetime,
Yeah.
her legacy has endured.
It really has.
I mean, today she is celebrated as a, central figure in paleontology.
Yeah.
One of the most important fossil hunters ever.
Yeah. It's amazing how history can kind of change its view.
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
Yeah. So at first they tried to erase her contributions.
Yeah.
But her discoveries were just too important.
They were too significant to ignore.
Yeah. And people eventually had to reassess her role.
And give her the recognition she deserved.
Yeah. And it wasn't an easy life for her, was it?
No, not at all.
She faced some serious financial hardships.
Yeah, including losing her life savings.
Yeah. So it's this picture of struggle.
Yeah.
Alongside this groundbreaking scientific work.
Yeah, and you think about the conditions she was working in, right?
Yeah.
Day after day out on those cliffs.
Yeah.
Exposed to the elements.
Right.
Often in dangerous situations.
Yeah.
And, constantly worried about money.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows incredible dedication.
Yeah, her resilience.
Yeah.
It's kind of a reflection of that Jurassic coast.
Absolutely. That relentless coastline.
Yeah. So that resilience, that determination to keep going despite the poverty, the prejudice.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
It does.
What obstacles are you facing?
Yeah.
What talents or passions do you have that are untapped because of those barriers?
Right. Are you letting those things hold you back?
Yeah.
I mean, Mary's struggles, while they're specific to her time,
Yeah.
they really resonate with this broader human experience, right?
Yeah.
Overcoming societal expectations.
Right.
Overcoming personal hardship
Yeah.
to pursue your passions. It's a universal story.
It is. And there's this powerful image that came out of the research.
Oh, yeah.
This idea of Mary's hammer.
Yeah.
So it encourages us to kind of pick up our own metaphorical tools
Yeah.
and chip away at the obstacles in our lives.
Yeah. It's a beautiful metaphor. Right.
It is.
Because it captures this idea of persistent effort.
Yeah.
I mean, Mary didn't just find these amazing fossils with one lucky strike.
Right.
It was countless patient actions,
Yeah.
gradually revealing these secrets hidden in the rock.
Yeah. And think about the ripple effect of her perseverance.
Yeah.
Her discoveries didn't just benefit her.
No.
They completely reshaped our understanding of science.
Yeah, they opened up these whole new fields of inquiry.
Yeah. It makes you think about the potential impact of your own actions.
Absolutely.
Pursuing your interests.
Yeah, no matter how small they seem.
Yeah. Maybe you're going to make a huge discovery.
It's a great point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, her individual efforts had these huge lasting consequences.
Yeah.
They led to the scientific revolution
Right.
and changed how we understand the natural world.
Yeah. So the material also talks about these fossilized thoughts.
Yeah.
These ingrained societal expectations and self-doubts.
Yeah, those things that hold us back.
Yeah. And Mary's life is such a great example of how to break free from those limitations.
Absolutely.
It shows us that our greatest discoveries might be hidden beneath layers of assumption.
Yeah, it's like we have to excavate our own minds.
Yeah.
Challenge our beliefs and preconceived notions
Right.
to unlock our potential.
Yeah. And then there's this idea of the geology of success.
Oh, yeah.
So how Mary's expertise didn't happen overnight.
Right. It was gradual.
Yeah, it was this persistent effort and observation.
Yeah, like geological strata forming over time.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that, big achievements take time.
Yeah, it's about consistent dedication.
Yeah.
Every fossil Mary found,
Yeah.
every observation she made,
Right.
added another layer to her knowledge.
Yeah.
Until she developed this really deep expertise.
And then there's this theme of weathering the storms.
Yeah.
So, facing adversity,
Yeah.
but remaining resilient.
Like those cliffs.
Yeah.
That stand up to the elements.
That's a powerful image.
It is.
And, considering all the challenges she faced.
Yeah, the financial instability.
Yeah.
The, professional marginalization.
Yeah.
The social prejudice.
Right.
Her ability to persevere is incredible.
Yeah.
It shows the power of inner strength.
Yeah.
And believing in yourself.
Right. And I love this connection.
Yeah.
How her scientific contribution of proving extinction
Yeah.
is kind of like a metaphor for overcoming self-doubt.
Yeah. The extinction of doubt.
I love that.
That's great.
Yeah.
And, it makes you wonder if her understanding of the natural world,
Right.
these cycles of creation and destruction,
Yeah.
maybe that even helped her deal with her own struggles.
That's a good point.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to think about.
Yeah. And finally, this concept of evolving beyond limitations.
Right.
And Mary becoming a living fossil.
Yeah.
So her legacy is still alive.
Yeah, it's inspiring. Right?
Yeah, and it makes you think about what kind of legacy you're creating.
Ab-
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Mary Anning's life,
Yeah.
I think the big takeaway is that discovery is an ongoing journey,
Absolutely.
both in the world around us
Yeah.
and within ourselves.
Yeah.
Her story encourages us to look deeper, to question our assumptions,
Yeah.
and to follow our passions no matter what.
It's a powerful message.
Yeah.
So one last question for you to think about.
Right.
Given Mary Anning's incredible impact that started with a single fossil, what might you discover if you really dig deep into your own interests and challenges?
That's a great question.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
My pleasure.